Here's what Greg Doucette got wrong in his dismantling of the Tren Twins pre-workout. That's how I'd hook this video if I wanted to start drama. I don't really follow much of the bodybuilding YouTube content anymore, but I did hear that Greg did a video not so nicely about the Tren Twins pre-workout. I've never done a bodybuilding show, always been a strength athlete, but when it comes to supplements, I needed to fact check this video. So I got a couple things to say about Greg's criticism of Feral Stim pre-workout. So let's get into it. Now, Greg starts off this video by calling out some tried and true ingredients, especially like that first blend, beta-alanine, citrulline, taurine, Elevate TP, Synactive. He says that some of them are great ingredients because he sells them himself, which I love that he tries to sell his own product. He misses a couple things, like I think he could have loved on taurine a little bit more. As an endurance product, is that a great dose, 2 grams? He calls out a blend of ingredients that's only in this product that he didn't really understand. He calls out another ingredient, uridine, that he doesn't really know the benefits of. And then he has a big issue with the amount of caffeine and stimulants that are similar chemically in nature to caffeine. So let's start off on the ingredients he didn't know about. Trigger 2 is a blend created by the company behind Feral Supps. It's a combination of aspartic acid and a modified aspartic acid. This is supposed to be a nootropic. This works on the NDMA pathway. Admittedly, there's a lot of animal studies on this. There's not a lot of human studies, but looking at the pathway, this makes it a nootropic that is not often, let's say, massaged in pre-workouts. Given that this is a high-stim pre-workout, having a different angle of nootropic in there is kind of fun. A lot of people like focus. This, in my opinion, kind of turns up the stimulant nature of the product, makes it a little more exciting. And I think it's worth noting that this is a product for high-stim people. This is not for beginners, especially at the 2-scoop dose. But talking about those stimulants, Greg brings up a lot of issues with amount of caffeine, types of caffeine, and there's a bunch to break down here. The caffeine is broken up into caffeine anhydrous, dicaffeine malate, and caffeine citrate. This is a common practice in pre-workouts to kind of make an experience of caffeine with a normal, slower, and faster acting. He says that Zoom XR is the only delayed release. There's also an extended release version of caffeine from PLT. And let me be clear, I am huge fans of PLT. I just did a podcast with them that launched yesterday. But dicaffeine malate, the trade name Infinergy, has been around for a while. It's a longer acting caffeine, and most people feel a difference using products that have blends of caffeine. But when he starts to talk about caffeine equivalents in other ingredients like theobromine and dynamine, I start to drift off in terms of how much I think this is reasonable. Overall, there's 405 milligrams of caffeine in here. Listen, there's a lot of safety data on caffeine. There are safety data all the way up to 13 milligrams per kilogram and benefits in there. Most studies found that 6 milligrams per kilogram is the happy spot for a 200-pound male. Most research shows a drop-off in terms of benefits. For a 200-pound person, that's about 545 milligrams. I understand and agree that we shouldn't all be high-dosing caffeine all the time. I don't necessarily disagree with him that people using this amount of caffeine regularly should take a caffeine break at some point, but the fact of the matter is this is not unsafe, and there's a lot of benefits to using higher doses of caffeine. Theobromine is added in after. This is something that is a metabolite of caffeine, so I can understand the confusion on equivalent doses. I don't really agree on the idea of adding it to the caffeine, although I will factor it into how strong I think a product is, because theobromine can make caffeine feel stronger. That said, it's not a concern here. This is not going to put it over the limit for most people, and especially similarly with dynamine. Dynamine's labeled here as methylliberine, but if you look at any of the data from Compound Solutions on dynamine, there's a lot to show that it doesn't raise heart rate or blood pressure. It's a great ingredient to add into caffeine. I don't think that it's an issue to add in there. With that said, I like this product because there is no Yohimbe blend or alpha Yohimbe. There's no like real hard-hitting stimulant on top of these caffeines. I think it's actually, of course, a high-stim product, but rather reasonable. Again, I would not recommend this product to new consumers. It's a strong pre-workout, but for people who are experienced in the gym and looking for high-stim pre-workouts, I run into these people all the time. Having a safe, compliant product here for them is a great idea. I don't think it really deserved getting dismantled. I understand that there is beef on YouTube between different people, but when it comes to supplements, there's a lot of different consumers out there. And so as such, there's different products for different types of users. And to that end, Feral Supps has a pre-workout that I could recommend to a decent amount of people because I believe that it is compliant and I believe that it is safe and it's good for a consumer that's looking for something that typically goes into an area that is not legal or safe.